Welcome to Toffee TV. It is live at 5. It is the club call for our patrons, but obviously we're live on YouTube as well, joined by John Blaine in the studio. Ped is chilling out to my left. He'll be on in a bit. But yeah, it's very warm in the studio, very warm outside. No transfer activity so far, John. People are a little bit worried.
They're all on holiday.
Yeah. Are you not concerned at the moment?
No.
No? Okay. Just do us a favour, pull that mic a little bit closer to you, just so. That's it.
Is that better?
That's the one. That's the one. Just ring your answer.
Just deafen Page then.
No, not with that. So, I mean, what's your take on it, John? Obviously, we know Everton have got to be careful with P&L, or FFP as people call it. It's probably easier calling it that, even though it's got its own stuff.
FFP's generic, isn't
it? Yeah.
Call it that.
And it seems like, and I don't know, it seems like Everton that, in a way, I've got to sell someone before they can actually go out and start buying, and it's difficult to make someone come and buy your players quicker than perhaps they want to, isn't it? And that's the predicament Everton maybe find them in at the moment.
I think we've chatted about it before, normally on the sofas, about how you can try and play around the boundaries of the beginning and at the end of financial years, because obviously different clubs have them at different times.
Yeah.
So our financial year ends next Thursday.
30th.
So clearly we want to make this year's numbers from a FFP perspective look healthier.
Yeah.
Then we need to do our selling before midnight next Thursday. So that'll be interesting for us as fans, I think, if we don't sell anybody, because the dynamic changes ever so slightly then, because from the next day we're in the different financial year. So ideally you want to sell players on one financial year and buy them in the next one.
Okay, why? Because people will say why does that matter?
Because the way profit sustainability and the allowable, what you're allowed to lose, and it's all these 3-year rolling cycles and so on. Yeah. Clearly this year technically it's the third of a 3-year cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's also the first of a 3-year cycle, and it's also the second of a 3-year cycle.
That's too confusing.
So across that boundary, you'd be in a different financial year.
Okay.
Yeah, which would mean, again, and this is what clubs have done in the past, really, they've taken a bit of a jump of faith, haven't they? Because it depends what assumptions we make. Because you personally, you might say, okay, how much have we got to spend?
Yeah.
Well, at the moment, I don't think cash or anything like that, which would be the normal things you might have to think about, particularly come into play, even though they might be an issue, notwithstanding we're allegedly getting sold, because we're up against financial fair play instead.
Right, yeah.
I mean, this is some of the things you've talked about Newcastle in the past, when you're trying to school Scholes, for example. Yeah. You can have all the money in the world, but if the regs say you can't spend any more, you can't spend any more.
Yeah.
So our challenge is to get to the point where the regs allow us to spend more money than we can afford, I suppose. Yeah. Which is where clubs like City and the like are. They're so safe that they don't have to think about how much they spend. Yeah. So with that in mind, we want to be able to buy in our new financial year, because let's be blunt about it, it gives you opportunities to sell in January and sell like we are now before June the 30th next year. So you can make assumptions about where do we think we'll finish in the league, therefore how much income will we have, if we've got this new record-breaking deal, we'll get a full year of it, all those sorts of things. True, yeah. And they're all the calculations that go into the big fat spreadsheet that says where are we compared to financial fair play. But of course we've got the legacy of the past, and the legacy of the past is the sort of things Koeman and Walsh were doing, but they're also the horrors of what Allardyce did with the 100+ million that in the books Tosun and Walcott probably cost us with transfer fees, agents fees, and wages for God knows how many years, when they didn't. Well, Theo did a little bit, but Tosun did. Yeah. Classic SWA, didn't he?
So, right. Okay. So in that case, then, you're absolutely right, the next 8 days are going to be very interesting.
They could be very interesting indeed, because and if you look at, I don't know what's happening with alleged challenges from Burnley and potentially other clubs, but the financial year, I guess they're most interested in is this one, because this is the one that they got relegated in.
Mm.
So I would imagine, next Thursday is an interesting day. It may or may not give us an indication of what's going on.
Right.
And I don't even know whether it's a key day for any sale or anything like that. But those businesses or those consortia, whatever they are, who are interested in buying a stake or control of the football club, then right now the books are probably known, aren't they?
Yeah.
But subject to anything that happens in the next week. Our books are going to look far better if we sell somebody for 50, 60, 70 million. They're going to look hugely better, aren't they?
Of course they are, yeah.
You were talking offline to me before that, you chat, you talk to people who may talk to people who may talk to people who may know stuff, and there are a limited number of players who the manager considers as you can't sell those.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's a price on everyone's head. If you are a buying club, say someone like a Daniel Levy at Tottenham, do you think Everton are going to be under more pressure before the end of this financial year or not? I would think yes, you do.
Yeah, you'll know, yeah.
Therefore, you think that your optimum time to try and get a player like Levy does on the cheap could be in the next week or so. Which is why it's going to be interesting for us as Evertonians if those clubs who are trying to take advantage of our situation don't exploit it
in the next week.
In the next week, because as soon as the clock ticks over into the next financial year, the environment changes a little bit.
It is that interesting, isn't it?
It is, and it's probably, our club is notorious for radio silence, but right now I would imagine there's a significant number of people in the club who are working rather long hours, and are on the phone all the time and Zooms and God knows what else, considering where the largest shareholder is and what he's up to, and then of course what the business itself has to do from a player's point of view. But of course, all those things considered, most players are on holiday.
Yeah.
Things probably heat up when they come back to training and start talking to each other. Hey, if somebody wakes up next Wednesday, Thursday and sees some tweets saying Richarlison's still in Brazil, you're going to think, oops, I wonder what's going on there then. So let's just see them all coming through the doors.
Through the door of Finch Farm. I mean, he might still be in Brazil because he played games later, so he may be given
that's how you'd explain
the
it.
extra 4 or 5 days, mightn't he?
Explain it.
But obviously, they'll want him on the plane to America if he's an Everton player, won't they?
Well, and that's it. I mean, I don't know when the club are they going to do about a week at Finch Farm and then get off to the States? Mustn't it really?
I think they've. Yeah.
We're going. When are we going? The 15th.
15th, and they've got an event on the 14th in DC. So
yeah.
I imagine they'll go either. They'll probably go on the 13th then, really, won't they? To America. So it's only given them kind of 12 days of Finch Farm. So
warm up, isn't it? Really, just, shake the cobwebs off, really. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is interesting just because it's frustrating, obviously, when you're a fan. Because you've just seen the team go to, what was it, when the Dom scored 87th minute or something against Crystal Palace, and you've seen the team survive by the skin of our teeth, really, and largely down to the fans. I can make lots of excuses as to why we were where we were, and a lot of that's relevant, as well as the fact we weren't good enough on so many occasions. As well as the manager give points up by naivety and Benitez give points up by being stubborn. And you can look and go, well, that might not happen this season and we'll be better and we mightn't have as many injuries and therefore we'll be finishing higher up the league. Brilliant. But people still look and go, yeah, but that squad went to within one game of being relegated and there's no improvement, and yet other teams are spending money around us. And
we had this chat before. I mean, when you say no improvement, it's perhaps human nature for football fans or Everton fans in particular to equate improvement to be bringing new players.
Yeah, of course, but you will do.
Has to be to extract value from the ones you've already got.
But you will feel like that, won't you? If you see 2 or 3 new faces come through the door, immediately you go, oh, he's better than him and he's better than him.
Which player then, without too much thinking, would you sell just because you don't think they're good enough?
Andre Gomez.
Okay, right. If I'd asked you that 3 months ago, who would you have said?
Andre Gomez.
Okay. And where would Iwobi be on that list 3 months ago.
Yeah, of course. I won't listen. If someone coming for a Wobie now with a decent fee, I'd still.
Well, you would, but 3 months ago you'd have said out the door as fast as you can. You know,
people might have said, to be honest, Dominic Calvert-Lewin 3 months ago, mightn't he?
That's right.
Because he was all of that GQ stuff come out and he wasn't playing, or if he was, he didn't look that bothered, and there was a lot of stories about Arsenal and Newcastle, and you know, it's transpired that obviously he's come out and said he was feeling, you know, the mental health side of it. He was low, and he was.
What do you think the right metric is? Because you talk about coming within so many points of relegation, you know, and I had a quick nosy the other day, and I think over the last 5 years or something, I want to know how many games we'd won, you know, and I can't remember which season it was now, but at least one of the seasons when we finished 8th, we won 13 games.
Did we? Well, obviously draws would have done it, wouldn't they?
And draws are the difference, right?
Yeah. So
we won 11, and we just missed relegation. Previously, we've won 13 and finished 8th. So you think to yourself, well, the issue is those marginal games were defeats instead of draws, you know. And we can all do that, and this is what analysts do, isn't it? They do all the sums and stuff. So I just genuinely, when you try and understand the incompetence of what Benitez was doing, the impact on player confidence, some of the injuries which were damning, you know, particularly DCL. You know, what the par value. This was a below par year, but what was the par value of that squad? You know, in an alternative reality where you don't get those injuries and you don't get Benitez or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You don't get VAR decisions. Just any of the variables goes a different way. You know, and we've talked about this, me and you, I think, in the past about, you know, clubs, you know, because the statotypes know all this, don't they, about they greatly exceed their XG, for example. So it's not repeatable.
No.
But I just wonder, in a normal season, is such an abject performance, you know, if that's repeatable or not, or is it we go back to par, and that's where I think you guys have not up to date with it really. But if you do the squad assessment type thing, you try and deduce without any changes, what is this squad? Yeah. But we also know that they're quite fragile mentally, and therefore, you can be under relegation threat again.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? It's you know, you would hope that next season things will be better. You know, Everton actually if Everton would have took their opportunities and an XG value,
XG type stuff,
they'd have finished with 43.54 points, which would have had us above Wolves, who should have had 40, above Leicester, who have 42. So, and they finished in the top 10. So we know that VAR's another 5 points as well. Yeah. The decisions, if there's no VAR, Everton would have had 5 more points.
Well, all clubs can do those if buts.
Of course they can, and that's what I'm saying. It wasn't. But we've got someone on the line. We can come back to it, but we've got Dave Witch on the line. So
Dave.
If you want to
good
put
man.
them on. Okay, Ned, whenever you're ready.
Sharing old photographs today.
Hello, Dave.
Hello,
mate. How are you?
Hi, Dave.
Two of my favourite. Hi, Blainsy. Two of my favourite people in the world have got on the call all at once. Good to hear you, lads. No, I'm up and down, as you can imagine.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Dad passed away last week, but you know, you lads have kept me going this week, watching the content and making, you know, something to look forward to.
And you do look young as a 19-year-old, didn't you?
He did look young as a 19-year-old, didn't he?
Yeah.
And have you seen his WhatsApp pic when he's in the pool? Looks incredible, looking out over the sea.
I'm just thinking about in his uniform.
Marvellous. Oh, yeah.
He's into uniforms, aren't you? Or
Big
you
Dave.
were when you were 19.
No.
Go on then, mate. But
yeah, we should just really, because I mean, I think last time I popped on, you and Peds, as you always do, have some really good ideas. You know, some of which are no doubt speaking to fans, you know, day in day out on your you know your Patreon network, and some of them obviously me and you spoke a while ago, didn't we? Baz, when I came on the show, talking about how we communicate. You know, the way we communicate, and it being a bit historic at times, you know, it can be a bit bland, can't it? If we're honest, a bit vanilla. So obviously that's been an ongoing thing that I've continually brought up, including, you know, a lot of fans have constantly asked for the director of football to be a bit more on the front foot. I know being Blake, you actually spoke about this on WhatsApp many times. So I think in between that, obviously the club have listened to some of them ideas, some of the ones that you put forward to ourselves. Obviously challenged us back to you know, come back with a few new ideas of things that we'd like to see. So, I'd just encourage anyone, like including yourself, so I've obviously got a lot of the ideas you've put forward to myself already, to contact me directly. Obviously, david.witchley@evertonfansforum.com. If you've got any fresh ideas, anything you'd like to see, by all means, we'll always listen, contact us, and we'll take them on board. But we're going to put a bit of them into writing and try and just force the issue a bit. Obviously, in between, we've obviously had Felwell. Had that bit of an interview, didn't he, with Howard?
With Howard, yeah.
I mean, I've got to be honest, I didn't learn much that I didn't know already. But at the same time, I kind of didn't want to shoot it down, because it's, if you just shoot every single thing down, then you're not really, and I'd like to just see more of that, more often, and I think, like the carpool karaoke, I'm still determined to get Baz driving down there.
Oh, God, mate, that was a classic winner from you, that. Absolute winner.
Why don't you two just commit to doing one now, and let's see what it will look like.
Absolute winner. Me and Dave Witt bouncing around, be interesting. Carpool karaoke, yeah.
Drive up and down the road, yeah.
Well, Andy van der Meijden does it, and he, so therefore I think I could do it easily.
Unlike you two, he can't sing.
No, that is correct, John. You are ultimately correct. No, Dave, let me bring a couple of things to you while you're on. Dave is, in case you don't know, Dave is on the Fans Forum. The Fans Forum have obviously played a huge part with a lot of other people as well. I'm not singling one person out towards the atmosphere at the end of the season and everything. That was there, the greeting of the team coach and all that, which was obviously hugely important to the football club and helped stay up. Has there been any further discussions, Dave, about how we continue that? But maybe, I understand that I keep asking this question, and it's a difficult one, because I don't know if any of us have got the answer. When you're standing on the edge of a cliff, you'll do anything not to fall off it, and that's, I think, what everybody did at the end of the season. People, even the naysayers at first, who were moaning, "Well, you're greeting the team, but we're probably there by the second one." Do you know what I mean? Or we're loving it at the second one. So, has there been any further discussion about how we recreate that? It won't be the same, and I understand that. But how do we keep that going, maybe, or as we move forward, because it clearly made a difference.
It did, mate. And I listened to the segment you had yesterday when you were talking about it, and really interesting listening. I think Ted hit the nail on the head when he said it was because it wasn't just a fans forum, as you've just said. It was just collective fans coming together. Whether that's supporter groups, individual fans. That we're all invested in the same thing. They didn't want to just do nothing and allow us to fall perilously into a situation that we shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
So I think the appetite's there. That them wider networks are there. It's actually shown. Tony's got a piece out. Fans Forum new chair, Tony Sampson. I'm sure many of you have seen him on Toffee 2. He's got a piece in the Echo. Chris Beasley's going to release this afternoon or this evening, talking about the importance of networks and using them networks, and it not just being one group of people. If you look at her game too, and like Julie involved in the shareholders, different fans involved in that, not just a fans forum. If you look at the US networks that have grown and the impact that's had, and I think the atmosphere kind of followed that suit. So I think we've learned a lot as a fans forum about getting out there. We can't change the past, can we? Maybe that's what should have been done a long time ago, but it wasn't. So we can only look forward, look at what's worked, and try and reproduce that moving forward. Obviously, Barry Williams is still heading that up from the fans forum, and he's working with a lot of these groups who are been in contact all summer since the season. And there's a lot of good ideas. We've all been listening. I've been listening to your platform. There's people been discussing on various supporter group networks. Yeah. So there's lots of new, fresh ideas out there. I think. We it's all about what the fans want as well. It's not just a group of people, isn't it? It's about what the appetite of the fans is. But what we have learned is actually the one thing that I certainly wouldn't have thought that a coach greeting could ever work. But what we've actually taught ourselves is that it can. If we try new things, then and be brave and be a bit bold about it, then people will join in. People will follow that. I think that's the key. I think Chelsea naturally lends itself to that easy win, doesn't it? It's the late game. People would have been out early. Everyone's going to be in good spirits. Yeah. So I don't know about you lads, but I was looking at Gladys Street towards the end of last season, and it looked different. With all the fresh banners and the flags, and it just looked. It almost fell in love with Goodison Park.
Them blue smoke bombs. Just on the way in, Dave, if you can just say to the people at Goodison, just turn the blind eye. Just ask people not to throw them on the pitch, but it just, from where I sit in the upper Bullens, look, and John's at the park end, so we can see it as well, looking down, and seeing the Gladys Street bouncing with flags and banners and the blue smoke, it was just unbelievable. For me anyway, it just felt unbelievable. It felt like something that hasn't been there for, and I'm talking years, because when I'm of the age, John, just slightly older than me, you know, I'm smiling when I say it.
Years,
no, you know, but in the you know what made me laugh, and I don't know how old you are, Dave, but you might be just a bit too young for this, because I was only a kid. But in the 80s, the Gladys used to be full of banners and flags and scarves, and when, it makes me laugh when people went like cop-out behaviour. It was like, yeah, you know, in the 80s when we were boss, that's what. Look at any picture of Rotterdam. All you can see is Everton flags and scarves and everything. FA Cup finals just would be them 3 finals on the run. Everybody had something blue. There was blue and white band. Everyone had ripped the blue and white thing, throw it. It was mayhem, and it just all played into that atmosphere, didn't it? And we had moved away from it, and it was incredible. I thought, I don't know about you, but from where I was sat to see the street end,
maintaining momentum is the challenge, you know. Yeah. And I hear what Dave says, and I think Tony's quite right when he talks about networks, but those networks need to be both formal and informal, you know, and the formal ones that provide the framework, and the informal is where the spontaneity and the passion play will come from. And I think you nailed it as well when you talk about, well, you know, I worked for Rolls-Royce Motor Cars many years ago, and it got close to going out of business, you know. Right. And we had a business process re-engineering project, but the soundbite for it was survival isn't optional. You know, yeah. Because it's such a fundamental part of the town of Crewe and all those sorts of things. So last season, weeks ago, allowing fans, for want of a phrase, to really get the players going, wasn't optional. No. And so I would have a fear, Dave, to be honest, that when the pressure's off, i.e. there's 38 games to go, some of the things that were, in quotes, allowed, might not be allowed. So I think the formal side of that networking needs to be, okay, what time are the players going to arrive for that first game of the season? Because if we're going to orchestrate a welcome, I mean, maybe the average fan doesn't recognise that you can't actually do this stuff without the club helping you. Because if you don't know the route of the coach and you don't know what time it's arriving, people can be stood outside for hours and hours and nothing happens, sort of thing. And you can lose momentum. You know, and people started to drift away from that thing when they got fed up looking like Smurfs and you know and stuff like that. So I think that's key. But things don't change overnight, you know. And our football club has been pretty piss poor engaging with fans for quite a long time. So you can't expect them overnight to see the light and it all to be easier. And I was a bit intrigued, Dave, when you said that the club are being responsive and they're saying come back with more ideas. That's a holding statement to me. I mean, we've got professional people within our football club whose job is public relations, engagement, media, all those sorts of things. And when you come up with some thoughts about how you'd like them to engage with the fan base, they say yes to you and come back with some ideas. They should not be able to get anything from the fans forum that they don't know already. So I think the focus needs to be on how are we going to orchestrate this? How are we going to, and Baz is saying, how are you going to, sorry, I'm going to add to what you said.
Go on,
How are you going to stay within the law and within the rules, but give the freedom for fans to make the Gladys Street bounce? You know? Flags are supposed to be fireproof. You know, you can't wait till 2 days before the game and then say, sorry, you can't bring any in. So it's about, Dave, when you speak to the club, it's about saying, well, what's the lead time to allowing fans to bring their flags in? Obviously, the banners have already passed all those tests, I'm assuming, if they haven't, they need to, and so on and so forth. But you're right, the Gladys Street look fab from the park end particularly, right? Because you get to see it properly.
Of course,
and it was like that in the good old days when we won things. You know, and maybe the cop-out behaviour was just our way of saying, we're miserable sods and we're not passionate enough, therefore we're going to say it's not the right thing to do. But you're right, Dave, again, Chelsea couldn't be better. Particularly if they buy some of our players.
God, don't say that, John.
Well, they mightn't they? But it couldn't be better as a continuation game.
Exactly.
And that continuation game, for me, needs to be that we make that game as a starting point, no less passionate than the Palace game was. Because that tells the fans it wasn't a one-off. We're still here. We still expect you, Mr. Iwobi, who says you get great lift from this. We still expect you to get that lift because we're going to provide, the backing for it. And we talked about this years ago, didn't we? We need to get Goodison bouncing so that when we land at Bramley Moor, we don't waste that stadium.
We're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Which means the originals, Dave, and I know you're working with whatever they're going to be called, the new originals or something.
The 1878s.
Well, there you go. They need to be back at the heart of this, And maybe it's already too late, but from my personal point of view, the club flaked on the singing section, stuck it out in the corner, whether just instead of biting the lip and sticking it right behind the goal. I don't know whether it's too late for that already for this season, but they certainly need to really, as a club, to be bold. And I don't think any ideas you come up, Dave, can be too outrageous for now. You just ask the big Christmas list and expect to get everything and be happy with what you get.
I think the other thing as well is that people did. I think you're right, John. We had gone a bit miserable because of, and rightly so. I'm not telling anyone you should be saying up being made up to be in the Premier League, because we all, there's a big section of our supporters remember when we won stuff. There's a big section of our fan base who believed far or who's seen David Moyes' team always near the top 5 or 6. And there's a big section of our fan base that believed Farhad Moshiri's money would put us there because it was told we would.
It should have.
We all, and it should have. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So, because of all those knocks, you do kind of start going, well, then entertain me, because I'm paying me money, and again, I'm not even going anyone. I'm the biggest one for it. For going in or was getting there late and going in, sitting down, going, well, come on. Because Martinez destroyed my enjoyment of football, I'll be honest. Year 2 and year 3. The most bored I've ever been watching Everton Football Club. Worse than Allardyce for me. Terrible.
What did you say, Dave?
Did you pick up on Iwobi's comment the other day? It was really interesting, his interview, where he said, Frank has encouraged me to play, something along the lines of, Frank has encouraged me to play in a way that engages the fan base.
I saw that, yeah. And Coleman and Howard, did you see that? When Howard's like, I played for these for 9 years, I never seen fan base like that. And Coleman was like, it's kind of took me breath away. And I thought Coleman's line was massively important, because it's something I've said lots of times, and I didn't know whether there was any real value in it. But when you hear your captain say it, and it made the new lads kind of sit up and go, well, Everton, this club's mad. You're playing for the club, but the next minute you're seeing that mental. It was mental.
But the three of us, right, in different guises, you through Toffee TV, me when we used to do EBM, Dave does the Bobblers stuff. Yeah. We'll all have at some stage talked about marginal gains, haven't we? And in a way, when we're talking about the numbers of wins, they're marginal, aren't you? 2 or 3 more wins, and you think, what was the problem, and so on. But a marginal gain comes from the lift that the players get.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at someone like Iwobi, and hey, one swallow in a summer and all that sort of stuff. Course, yeah. But if you look at him, a man whose fan base reaction may have, say his par value is 100, he might have been operating at 80 because every time he touched the ball, someone was on his case. Right? Now he's operating at 110, but that's a big gap from underperforming to overperforming, and you need to normalise a little bit and get the 100, don't you?
Yeah,
every
of course
week,
you do,
sort of thing. Because certainly, the passion play that we as fans put into the players, clearly they ran on adrenaline, they got tired and so on. They couldn't cope with that. No athlete could cope with that for a season. So it's almost like, Dave, let's get there for Chelsea, but let's not let the players become reliant upon it as well.
No, of course.
Because, you can see how emotionally drained Anthony Gordon was getting in games and stuff like that. But we do turn up for big ones. So they get that. That tells them this is an extra special one. So straight away we're saying the first game of the season they're going to get it. They're definitely going to get it for the derby, aren't they? And then we have other games where we
but it has to be there for the others. It can't be flat then. It
can't
be.
I'm
it can't be like
there's a peak.
Yeah, of course, because me and Ped were talking about it yesterday. Dave will have heard this. It was like, half 7:45 kick-off in November and it's raining and people can't stood outside with your kids at 5:30. It's dark. for a start, or standing there with a flare at the players gone. Do you know what I mean? So it has to be orchestrated in the right way.
But I think the orchestration could ensure there's always a welcome for every single game. And
that electricity is taken into the stadium for every game. Mightn't be at the height of Chelsea when it's August the 6th. It'll probably be a lovely day and it'll look amazing. 5:30, it's set up perfectly. But we have to make sure if Nottingham Forest, the 3 o'clock kickoff on the Saturday 2 weeks later, it's bouncing. It might be a different kind, but it's bouncing. So that they're promoted side thinking, bloody hell, this is going to be hard. This is mad. You know, that kind of thing.
We also need to find a way, and I don't know the answer, Dave, so let's all just think about it, is getting the consistency into the away support as well. Because the away support has been, for a number of years, tip-top, but in an organic way. It's not orchestrated. It just sort of happens, you know? And if we can find... And I guess what we're talking about here is how do we get our fan base organised in a way so that we're all pulling in the same direction? And start with the match day experience as an example. Because clearly, if you try and get these informal networks too formal, you inevitably drift into get rid of the board, let's do this, let's do that, let's do the other. It's just like, because your fans forum has like an atmosphere group, doesn't it, Dave? So it's like an extension of that that says, let's get the fans on match day when we're fully behind the players really as efficient, if you want to not be too formal.
Pulling in the same direction for 100%.
And I think that's what happened organically. And it was fab. And if you looked at social media in the prep for those, you got Katie and you know Hannah and all these sorts of people. Everyone, particularly match going, we're all going in the same direction. And sorry, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's easier to do for the away grounds than it is to do the home grounds.
I totally agree, mate. I mean,
all a set of fans, and most of them are already in an organised fashion.
Yeah.
Coaches.
Yeah.
We go back to Dortmund.
Ped's talking about supporter liaison officers.
But we go back to Dortmund and how, I mean, I personally, and I think we did generally, when we went to Dortmund, we come back and said, you know, and I think I said to Richard Kenyon, you know, they've got 10 or 11 SLOs, they'll host Everton if you want. Yeah. Tottenham had already been there. Yeah. We have a couple of SLOs, typically, who are club employees. And are working. And I don't really personally ever see them at away games and so on. And Dortmund have 10 or 11 who, they're sort of club employees on the basis the club pays them, but actually their bosses are the fans.
Yeah, not the club.
Anybody who goes to work in
Monday to Friday in the marketing department or whatever. Yeah. No. So I think the club, very personal view, pays a bit of lip service to SLOs when really it should be 10 or 15 people who everyone knows who they are. You know, Mr. Williams, or a Dave Kelly or whatever. Yeah. People who really know and go games.
And who are opinionated as well, though. Who are opinionated.
And you know if the coach process doesn't work because you've been on a coach. You know if driving there doesn't work because you drive and so on. So I think, again, David, you're looking for ideas. Get the fans forum or whatever the right vehicle is for doing it. Recruit 10 SLOs who are prepared to help. Put my name down if you want, really, but because it needs to be across age groups, across genders, across everything, and and have a team of SLOs.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It really is.
There's another one for you, Dave. To take back.
Down, lads. Yeah. Just to say from.
Leave them. Go on, Dave. You they're talking amongst themselves. You speak. Everyone can hear you. Go on.
I was just listening to the man over there. Sorry, Dave.
Just to say, obviously, as we mentioned before, like a lot of the lads who were involved in the originals are involved at the 1878 on Twitter. So get that added.
Yeah.
Any ideas?
Get that website up, Dave.
Yep. Well, you've said I'm sure I can speak to you about that, can't I, John? But it's not about one group. It's not about a select bunch of fans. It's about every single fan. Having an onus to make these last 2 seasons about as we head towards Bramley Moor as good as they can be. We've got to we think the new generation. We're seeing kids on shoulders, experiencing some of this for the first time, and they'll be the next generation.
The next one, exactly.
Witnessing this, so. We've all got an onus, every single one of us, not just individuals. Just do what you can, put your ideas forward, whether that's retweeting, putting an idea forward, bringing a flag, creating a banner yourself. get in contact with us, and we're happy to guide you and to empower you in any way that we can, because it's about us all working together. And just one last plug to say that the fans forum vote closes for the candidates that are up at midnight on Thursday as well.
Midnight on Thursday, right? Okay.
Exactly. And look, I hope that most agree. I do think the fans forum are more visible than they've been, certainly since I became aware of the fans forum. It needs to continue and to improve.
Yeah.
I know John knows I'm a massive advocate of continuous improvement, so we can't rest on our models. It has to be better again next year and the year after, and continue to move forward. So look at it, see who stands out to you. I'm sure that Baz, you've definitely got a couple of favourites that stand out to you, but have a look and see who represents you personally and get your vote in for them as well. So thanks, lads.
Absolutely, Dave. And the fans forum has gone from strength to strength with people like Dave, with Barry Williams and everybody else who's on there. It's got better and better each year. They don't mind calling the club out for stuff. The club that has worked with them did work with them and all the other groups as well, and like John said before, there is more to be done from the club, there's no question about that, but it has gone from strength to strength, and it was something I felt a few years ago did just pay lip service and was more, was different than what it is now, and I think that can only, if that improves, then
I think if the fans forum could do one thing, classic, if you remember nothing else out of this chat, remember this bit, so to speak, Dave, and it's something you can take away, is use the word when with the football club more often. Yeah. Because I think you come up with great ideas. They don't say no, but they often don't happen. You need the when.
Nail them to the when, yeah.
Definitely. Thanks, lads.
Cheers, Dave. Superb call, mate. Look after yourself.
Take care, Dave.
Bye, lads.
All right, take care. Bye, Dave. Bye. Brilliant call from Dave Witch there. Went on a little bit longer, but there you go. If you want to listen to the Bobblers, Dave is on there. But like he said, get your voting. You've got until midnight on Thursday to vote for the candidates, the latest.
Have you voted?
I voted last week. Yeah, we've got a couple of, obviously, couple of people who we're close to in there. So but people can vote for whoever they think is best. And good luck to all the candidates there. I'm sure whoever gets on will do a great job. So there you go. Harry Matson says, "Hello, Baz. Hello, John. I understand that Everton have to sell before we can buy, but can the club's finances currently allow us to keep Dom, Richarlison and Pickford, as well as comply with Premier League FFP?"
Don't know. Yeah.
I was hoping for a little bit more there, mate.
I mean, it's a bit broad brush, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we have to sell before we can buy. We don't really know the finite detail of the finances. I mean, for example, if you look at the new shirt sponsor, who knows what value that has on it? I'd be very surprised if it allows us to keep all three. So I think we might very well anticipate Richie or DCL go. I think in circumstances being what they are, if we come out the transfer window with the holes we think we have in the squad or the starting 11 filled, then it's likely that one of those two are not here. And I rather hope that it's not both of them.
Yeah. Okay.
If both of them go and we don't sell cheap, then I just hope we spend the money wisely.
Isn't it? I mean, there's two things in there, John. One, I think it's safe to say if there was any way Everton could keep all three of those, it would generally mean they wouldn't be signing anyone else. If there was a way, if the Premier League said to Everton, you can keep Richarlison and Dom and Jordan Pickford.
So it's loans then.
There's no room for you to buy anyone. You might be able to loan.
Yeah.
I think that would be right, wouldn't it? I think it seems that way anyway.
And loans might be the right way anyway.
Yeah, possibly. And the other flip side of that is, I personally don't think we can lose both Dom and Richie.
No, we can't.
Because I don't know where's
the goals.
Exactly. Me and Ped have just done the review on the season with all the stats from the defence and the midfield and the forwards. And the big thing that you take through the whole thing is there's no goals in the team. There's no goals in it. Richie's our top scorer, and we're talking about selling him.
And he did most of that in the last month.
But he got 6 in the last 9.
Yeah.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin was injured. I get that. I get that. But he got 5 goals, and then after that, you took him to Damari Gray, got 5 goals. Anthony Gordon got 4. But the rest of the midfield, Townsend.
But Gray and Townsend were first half dozen games.
Exactly, and $1.5 million for the two of them.
I think you'd be relying on people like Anthony Gordon to have as big a leap in progress as he had last season, wouldn't you?
You would.
And that can't
happen.
happen.
And add goals to that.
And that can't happen.
Is that going to happen? So I can't see it.
Need to keep him, by the way.
I don't think he'd want to go anywhere anyway. No. So, you know, you've got to build. We can't, you know, if someone like Richarlison wants to leave, then sell him then if he wants to go. I'm not having a go with him. He's come here for 4 seasons. He's got double figures every year. I think he's given a lot most weeks for the club. I don't think he's never disrespected us. Even now when it looks as though he wants to go, he's still not really disrespecting us. He's just saying, oh, well, you know, the manager knows what I want and all that. He's not gone full Fellaini or Lukaku, has he? And gone, well, you know, whatever. So if he does go, you shake him by the hand and you go, well, as long as we get the right money for him. And then it is about reinvesting.
Well, if you think about the conversation, it depends whether you're optimist or pessimist, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The manager knows what I want. I want a new 5-year contract, yeah? Or I want to play in the Champions League next season.
Yeah.
But it always takes 2 to tango, you know? So whatever Richie wants, if he wants it from a playing perspective, then there's only a limited number of clubs, you know? And it might narrow down to like 1. And then it's about whether a deal can be done, and who blinks first, and how much influence is the largest shareholder going to have. So, you know, may all culminate next week.
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, we've got. I mean, the hottest Spur, who is quite clearly a Tottenham fan, in the comments says apparently Spurs links with Richarlison have been slightly exaggerated. So
quite possibly,
maybe like London press, whatever. I don't know. Gaz says, thanks for your replies. My Tuesday topic video. Main thing jumped out to me is that you may be right. If the restrictions were scrapped altogether, City and Newcastle would blow everyone out the water. But there's always a chance that, and the dream that a multi-millionaire buys your club and you have a shot. But the current bias restrictions favour the snide 6 so massively, there's literally no chance of it happening. Bill Gates and Elon Musk could buy Everton and we'd still be scraping around for loans and free transfers. This was a Tuesday topic where Gaz had asked, you know, what is the point of FFP or P&L anymore? Because the same teams win the league. Doesn't matter how much money we've got, we can't spend it. So we discussed whether if there was no restrictions, Everton would be actually any better off. We might be in the short term, but then Newcastle and City have got untold wealth. So would you get near them anyway? We don't know. And I mean, Ped made the point that with the P&L rules in place, it's kind of trying to ensure your clubs run correctly, so that you have to adhere to a set of rules.
Profit sustainability is just trying to avoid clubs going out of business.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to demonstrate that you're sustainable. Now, there's wriggle room around that, isn't it? Sustainable can be that the owner says, well, I'll pay for it. Right? At the moment, that has to come through your own income streams and those sorts of things. And that's why you get the classic, the ladder's been pulled up. You know,
do you agree with that statement, the ladder's being pulled up, or don't you?
I think the ladders are pulled up because if you look at the way the products are sold, you know, the Premier League wants to sell worldwide rights every year, and that's where the income growth is coming from. Then everybody gets, or used to get, an equal share. Now it's a performance-based but close to equal share. So you still get the bottom club getting a huge amount of money. But of course, once this thing started and there were those clubs
established,
you know, it depends which one you personally think was the last one to get in under the wire, you know, then they're the ones in the Champions League and they're getting another 50 to 100 million a season or whatever it is. And so inevitably they can power across the others. Now, the TV deals for Premier League means it's not as acute as Germany. Look what Bayern Munich do. They challenged us for the league. That's because they've got this lovely, great player, so we're going to buy him. So we get better, they get worse, you know, and you end up with whatever it is, 8, 9, 10 seasons in a row type thing. So, I think there needs to be a mechanism that allows almost like an equalising of the league. Now, the curiosity around that is with increasingly larger numbers of American owners, maybe they want to influence it in a way like it is in the States. You know, I don't know whether, you know, you can't have caps on individual income. But maybe you can have a cap on how much clubs can spend on transfers or whatever.
That was my thing,
which would then encourage development through academies instead, where you'd have no logical restrictions.
I think the sad thing that got said then was you're waiting for to have a better owner, a bigger, better. That's not sport, is it?
No, it's not.
That's not sport.
No. Gaz is right.
And to be fair, something you've just said there, we probably were the last club to get under the wire.
And
the whole,
screwed it up.
That sort of. That's sort of what the argument, what I was saying the other day was. We had our chance and we blew it.
And
for us, actually, it might be better to have the rules because we've proved that money or no money, we can't do it. We need to start doing it properly, which means the club needs to work harder.
Absolutely.
Which means the rules for us are probably a good thing because without those rules, I think Mashiri would bleed himself to die. I really do. I think he'd be left penniless. He'd end up like Simon Jordan. Because he'd just keep spending and spending and spending and spending. And as been demonstrated this season, all it takes is something that you can't control. Who'd have ever thought a war would affect Everton Football Club? Yeah. And it has.
I mean, to be fair, World War One and World War Two.
Well, we know that bad.
We were champions.
We were the champions. It wasn't so bad.
Right. Yeah, but you're right, Ped. But if you talk about the rules, right? There's always a second chance, isn't there? You know, there's always an opportunity for one more chance, and if you look, this is why Everton will be a very attractive purchase for somebody, because if we just underpin what we say with if we were run properly, if we generally assume that most people in football in this country don't think we are, not just Everton fans but generally, if we were run properly, with a brand spanking new stadium on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey, then we don't want the rules to change. Because we don't want a club
like Newcastle,
just to turn up with hundreds of billions or whatever it is to spend, right? So there's got to be.
So do we want them to stay as they are? Then do you think?
No, I just think it needs to be more fit for purpose. Really, it's got to give the tease that if you run properly and you make good decisions, you can break into the treacherous 6. Which, let's not forget, it used to be a 4. So it can become an 8. It can become a 10. Whoa! It might one day be a 20. You know what I mean? So all things are possible. And you look what happened to Leicester. Okay,
and we know that top 6 has only finished the top 6 twice in the last 10 years, don't we?
That's right, yeah.
So it's not a real top 6.
And if you look at when Leicester had the miracle season, you know,
Oh, 3 times, sorry. This was the 3rd time.
Yeah. But the money they got for winning the Premier League was clearly a lot better than finish 4th or 5th bottom the year before.
Of course,
But what they're still riding on the back of is one season in the Champions League. When they
clever trade.
And they went. Yeah, that's right. And they went quite deep. You know, so this is where the optimism comes. You know, there's always a chance.
That's my view. Because I think if you don't have that view, then I think I probably walk away.
But look at us, right? How much money we've wasted. Yeah. Man United have wasted more than us.
Oh God, yeah. United. Well, I've said before, so United are us on steroids.
Even though you've got almost unlimited buying power, you can still make stupid decisions.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the fire break of just laying down a solid foundation, which one rather hopes we should have done 5 or 6 years ago. And if we'd done it 5 or 6 years ago, we'd be in a new stadium now, because that dragged its feet. But hey, it's on track now.
And we'd have probably been, or possibly been, played at least one season in Champions League.
Look at Arsenal. They're burning through money right now.
Oh God, they are. Yeah. Well, Arteta spent 50 million or something he spent now. You know, apparently. You know. So I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what they're saying.
So I don't know whether I'm going to be a divvy for saying this, but I think spending money can be overstated. There are only so many good players around. You know.
I think you've got. I mean,
clearly you can outbuy somebody. I offer 50 mil, and Ped rolls up and say, "I'll give you 100 million for that person," so he gets him. But there are only so many good players.
But then, if he's not worth 100 million, good clubs shouldn't be spending 100 million.
Right,
well, I was going to say then the other lot, have gone head to head with petrol-fueled Manchester City, haven't he? And Man City have come out on top because they've got better players. But Liverpool have ran them.
But they've done that on the back of some smart decisions.
They have as well, smart decisions. And that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not lauding Liverpool. I'm just saying they've proven in another way that you can navigate against money. Chelsea have got more money than Liverpool, and yet Liverpool finish above Chelsea every year. United have got much more money than Liverpool, and Liverpool have done better decisions. So Everton could still. I'm saying Everton could win the Premier League, but you never know. Leicester did. But Everton could certainly be run a hell of a lot better. Could certainly be getting into Europe because that's 17s on a normal season, 6 on a season where the unthinkable happens and one of the top 6 don't win the FA Cup. Everton should still be able to get into Europe or challenge to get into Europe. So we do have to maintain that hope. But it's just right now is that how do we flip this because we're up against what you just said yourself. We've got a big 8 days maybe. But it just feels like we had, last summer we spent £1.5 million. A Premier League team spending £1.5 million, and we're a year later, and we're going, we can't spend anything, and that's like 2 seasons gone. It's crazy when we've got an owner who's got money, and this was brought in. I was saying this to Ped on the Tuesday topic. This whole thing was brought in, born off the back of Portsmouth going out of business basically, because their owner was living in his mum's bedroom telling everyone he had billions. He didn't. And so it was, we can pay Jermaine Defoe $100,000 a week with our 19,000 fans that come in every week. And when they actually done the books, they went, no, you can't afford it.
See, you talk about a bloke in his bedroom, right? We'll talk about a bloke on a yacht. And
his bedroom would be nicer.
But ask ourselves, what were the assumptions? Because let's not forget that Farhad Mashiri at the first general meeting, and they've canned them now, but the first general meeting said, this business, all the good sound bites, we're not a museum, blah blah blah, we need to be sustainable, we're not currently sustainable, so that's a big failure, isn't it, right? But I'd love to know when it was happening over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, who was sticking the hand up and saying, excuse me, how do we stay within the rules when we're doing this? Now, if the assumption was we were going to finish second in the league, and we didn't, well, at least you were trying to make an assumption. But it was almost like it was impulsive type behaviours. And that's where the executive management become culpable, because they're the experts, and letting the owner overrule them, so to speak.
True,
But I'd love to see the minutes of board meetings where I rather hope it says every single meeting, but no, Mr. Mashiri, this is what'll happen, this is what'll happen, this is what'll happen. But let's see. But it's unsustainable. That's the challenge, and it's almost like you need to get to a levelling point where here's a squad quality that keeps you in the league. How many players can you sell to get yourself straight in financial fair play terms? And now that's the scary one, going back to what you said earlier, where that's where you sell Richie and you sell Dom, and you hope to get significantly more than 100 million for it, and that drops into your FFP stroke profit and sustainability bloody cycle, and you're sort of all right.
But you've lost all your goals.
You've lost all your goals, so make your defence better.
You still need goals.
No, of course, I know.
Don't you? Barry P says, so financial regulations are good for Everton, but what does that mean if we don't win anything and get back to the Moyes days? Is that really good enough for a club like Everton?
Well,
but it is where we are, Barry.
It's not that binary, though, is it? It's not that binary that the rules are good for us or they're not good for us. But
they're here, aren't they, at the moment?
But an alternative which says he who has most money ends up, in transfer terms, where a Newcastle could just burn through. Like Chelsea did in the early days, I suppose. Pile up players who were never going to get a game, type of thing.
And you're stopping them being at other clubs, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you were going to say something?
Interesting. No, I was just saying.
Sorry,
Just saying. Right, we've got John on the line. Going to put you.
Come on, how you doing?
Hey, John, you okay?
I'm doing good. We're absolutely burning up over here. We're a huge heat wave. It's been like 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is Celsius. Baz, maybe you can do the translation on
35,
that. But
35, isn't it? 36,
yeah,
something like that.
It's been ridiculous. This is like,
actually, no, it's more than that, John. I think it's 39.
Is it?
I think it's
35,
39.
40.
Oh, it's just been unbelievable.
But where are you
anyway,
John? Where are you?
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
So I'm right in the middle, right on the mighty Mississippi. Whoa. Right in the middle of the country. So
well, I was in Florida for the last couple of weeks, and towards the end of it, high humidity.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In the shade, 95 feels like 108. That sort of stuff.
Yeah. So where I am, it's a lot. And I used to live in Orlando. I was actually born there and used to live there. And so our weather in the summer is exactly like Florida in the summer. Oh, right. It's high humidity, high heat. Yeah, which is we always have a saying here, it's the humidity that gets you, not the heat.
Not the heat. Yeah, absolutely.
If you're in Vegas and it's 100, it's nice. It's fine.
It's nice.
Yeah. Well, it's
it's
bearable.
The one that does
it's bearable because you're not. Yeah, I used to, when I lived in Florida, I used to always say that walking outside, it was like you step outside and somebody's got a hairdryer right in your face.
Yeah, in your mouth. Yeah,
like.
yeah. I mean, I've been to Florida 16 times, Orlando, so I love it, and it is in August. It's hard work. It is hard work. I've been in June.
Well, anyway, before I get into my questions, we were actually getting an MLS team starting next year, which is pretty exciting too.
It's going to be brilliant.
Got a Boston Stadium. It's about 5 minutes from my house. So
standard. You never know. Everton might end up over there in a couple of seasons. You never know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, so I've got a couple of financial. So I'm glad John's not. John, I've never gotten a chance to talk to you, but nice to talk to another John.
Good name as well, John. Yeah.
Another Evertonian John. But that brings up a question. So, would it be feasible for Everton or another Premier League club? Because I think there's been discussions about trying to find other clubs in the English pyramid or even in Europe or whatever, to have sort of a partnership with for like loan deals and things like that. Mm-hmm. Do you ever, because of the calendar difference, do you ever see an opportunity for Everton to partner up with an MLS club to loan kids out? Because technically it would be in the off season. So in reality is if they come over here and they do well in the summer and up through the fall and stuff like that, you might be able to bring them back and get some use out of them in the the January, the second half of the season. So is that would you ever see anything like that?
Well, it's obviously Manchester City Football Group. They have New York City and obviously they have them in other places as well. And they've used, Jack Harrison's a big example of that. Played for New York City, went back to Manchester City, went on loan to Middlesbrough and obviously Leeds, and has done very well and is doing well at Leeds. And especially now, there's a lot of young talent in MLS. Yes. I'm a huge fan of Cade Cowell at San Jose. If I was Everton, I'd be looking to get him somehow. I don't know how you would with work permit, but look at ways how to get him. But there's lots of really good Americans at the moment. So I think it'd be an excellent idea. I don't know whether Everton would. I'm not sure. Everton couldn't do it at the moment because I don't think Mashiri has got the funds or the thirst to do it. But if Everton were to be bought by, just let's say, Peter Kenyon's consortium, and there's obviously American consortium who know about this and have got an interest in it. Personally, I'd like a different American consortium, someone who's actually running a sports club somewhere, because I think there's more opportunity at that. But I think it's a great idea. Me and Ped have been on about this for ages. Seems like Leicester own another club. Leicester own a club in Belgium, and they've used it. They use it to their advantage. MLS is obviously a growing league. A lot of young South American players going there now before they make the move to England. So I think there would be a good value in it. I think, but I think it would have to be a. Do you agree, John? It'd have to be a different kind of consortium.
An interesting reference to Farhad, because I think Farhad, was interested in. It sounds a bit grand, but so I'll just say it because it's shorthand, following the Citigroup approach.
Right, okay.
And having more than one club in your
in a stable,
And interestingly, because you mentioned Leicester, he did talk about buying a club in Belgium, right? So short answer for John is I think that is possible, because that requires you to have a strategy and it requires you to have a plan. And neither of those are going to get done particularly well if you're about to be sold. It's interesting if you look at the way the Glaziers use their money from Manchester United to obviously line their own pockets, but also to uphold the franchises that they have in North America. The States, FSG do something similar. So I suppose that indicates it doesn't necessarily have to be a soccer team, does it?
No.
If you're talking from a financial perspective. But I think with the World Cup going into North America or the Americas, I think there's a lot of attraction, and the quality is getting better. Therefore, players are capable, I think, of jumping from MLS certainly into the top two flights within English football. And of course, I think your question was as much to do with them going the other way, wasn't it? So what we have academy players, if they ever do come through. If you look at someone like Sims, where can you push him? You can push him to a championship or a first division team. And maybe if you had a franchise in North America, you could say, well, no, go and play in the sun, go and play on lovely pitches, go and do this, go and do that. Let's see how. So you're playing competitively.
Oh, of course.
And you're going to get minutes. And I may be wrong because I don't watch a huge amount of the MLS, but it wouldn't surprise me if the MLS is quite an average low average age in starting 11s.
It's gone. It's turning. It's turning from, you know, people who there's the exception, obviously, people like Higuain, who's 34 or something, playing from
Miami. It used to be a retirement home.
Well, it did, but
not now.
You know, now, I mean, we've just Chiellini's just gone to LA and stuff like that. So this does still happen, but in general, a lot of young
there's still some of that, but I think, you know, the MLS really made a few years ago, and I'm not an MLS expert, by the way, so hopefully I'll be more of one now. That
so out of us three, I most definitely am MLS expert. I watch it most weeks.
Compared to the two Johns,
Well, I watch it most weeks, and I watch, you know, Orlando City I follow because of that, but obviously, and that because of Adrian Heath, really. But now I end up watching Minnesota United because of Adrian Heath. So, but anyway, hopefully.
But no, I was going to say, though, I think 3, 4, 5 years ago, I mean, the MLS really made a big decision to invest heavily in academies. So what you're seeing is a lot more young talent come through. I'm thinking especially like Dallas has an amazing academy. I mean, they pushed through a bunch of guys that are now in Europe and things like that. So, you know, I think the average age is coming down. And frankly, I don't even think it wouldn't even have to be a matter of Everton buying a club. It could just be a partnership deal where they agree to share. Everton could share resources, training, coaching, you know, whatever expertise that they can offer, as well as maybe delivering players. And then maybe on the flip side, and again, I don't know how the work permits work, but, you know, especially with, I think it's easier for younger players, I think, to get a work permit in academy, or is it the same? Like, I don't know how that really works, but, you know, even sending the top young talent from the academies over to Everton to train with the academy for a while and get some experience overseas. So anyway, it's just an interesting thought, but I wanted to get to something that I think is really, you guys had touched on earlier. And I think, John, this is really up your alley, but you know, I obviously as an American, you know, I'm obviously a big Everton Premier League fan, but I'm also a big NFL fan. You know, to me, the most obvious solution is one that I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it really is a salary cap, similar to what the NFL has. And I know that in the past, one of the objections is like, well, can the Premier League do this unilaterally if no other leagues have it? And my response would be, well, we already pay the most. So if we had a salary cap, we could set it at a level that wouldn't necessarily hurt the top, you know, the clubs from being able to pay more than France or Germany or Spain or whatever. You know what I mean? Other than, like, say, the Barcelonas and the Real Madrids and, you know, whatever. I mean, they would be able to compete financially in terms of wages, things like that. But, and I just think there's a whole host of benefits for it. Number one is, you know, if they really are interested in competitive balance, that is the way to do it. And obviously it's not a hard cap. It's a soft cap. So, you know, every NFL team now has what they call a capologist, you know, which is, they're basically a financial expert where they work the cap. We still have free agency over here, so we still have player movement. It's not all about the draft, but, you know, a lot of, you know, you'll see this if you follow an NFL team, and if there's any Americans watching this that are football fans, American football fans, they'll know this as well. It's like, you know, there's a big thing about how much cap space you have going to the off season, right? And so you do see player movement as well, where you'll see, you know, here we have trades, but over there it might be a transfer, whatever. Where, you know, you trade somebody who's on high wages to somebody else, and that frees up cap space for you then to go in and, you know, bring in different players or pay a different person more money, you know, things like that. So I would love to see that. And I think the interesting thing is that of the American ownership in England, it's been more baseball owners.
That's true, yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised, other than, like, say, Randy Lerner, who bought Villa, you know, 15 years ago, whatever. Yeah. I'm kind of intrigued as to why there haven't been more NFL owners coming, because, I mean, they're the richest of the rich. You know, baseball's a little different because they went with something called a luxury tax a few years ago, because baseball was in a very similar situation, whereas, you know, you had the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers and some of these other big market teams, and it was really skewed towards the large market teams where they had all the money to buy all the free agents, and there was very little competitive balance. So they went with what's called a luxury tax, which was fairly unpopular because I think the bigger teams were like, well, we're just subsidizing teams with lower revenues that don't run their teams as well as we do. Yeah. But there's a whole lot of I mean, that goes into, like, the baseball was more like Spain, where the top teams, the teams, the bigger markets got a bit more money because they were able to negotiate bigger television packages locally.
Yeah.
If you're in New York, you've got a lot more eyeballs. So anyway, I think I think a salary cap is the way to go. And, you still have to be a well-run club. I mean, teams can mismanage a salary cap just as easily as they can manage it well, but I think you would also see less hoarding of players and things like that. So, I think you've already got kind of roster limits, which have kind of come in, what we call roster limits, but named players, things like that. So, you've already seen that be redressed a little bit, but obviously FFP is just a mess. I understand the reasoning behind it, and I think there are some benefits to it. But as you guys have pointed out, there are some massive holes in it. But I think if you really want to get away from the billionaire benefactor, that would be the way to go. So that's just my kind of thought on that. And then one last thing before I let you guys talk about whatever you want to talk about. Embarrassingly, I've never understood. So I'm just going to ask this question. You guys quote wages in weekly wages. You say something per week, which is completely foreign to us. Like we quote it in annual salaries.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. When you say he's on $100,000 a week, is that $100,000 a week times 52 weeks of the year?
Yeah.
Or is it just during the season?
No,
throughout the year.
So 5.2 million a year.
We just take it times 52. Okay, it's just a side note that I never really understood what that was, because when I'm trying to figure out in my head, like, well, what does this person make a year? I have to do math. Yeah, that's always difficult.
So it's so $100,000 a week, 5.2 million a season.
Yeah.
So across a contract of 5 years, 25 million, whatever.
Awesome. Okay, well, good. All right, well, listen, great job as always, John.
Brilliant, John.
Good to finally talk to you. And up to Toffees.
Yeah, it's right. Nice one, John. Take it easy,
John.
mate.
Thanks, John.
Ta-ra, pal. Ta-ra. Yeah.
Well, that's good point.
But the salary cap, I mean, me and Ped have mentioned it many a time, would even up a little bit. I just don't see the big teams ain't going to go for it.
No, but I also don't think you can do it in isolation either. I mean, there's other factors that go on in NFL, like they don't know what relegation is, for example.
Yeah, it's not relegation.
There's the sharing of merchandising, there's the sharing of overall incomes, blah, blah, blah. And that all brings a normalising. And then you have the draft, which basically says the crappiest team gets the first dibs, right? But that's all. There's an infrastructure, because of college football, there's an infrastructure.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately there's pulleys and levers inside profit and sustainability and in financial fair play which haven't delivered the outcome, right? They may have stopped clubs going out of business, but they've skewed performance basically, haven't they? But then the Premier League might think, for selling our product, 6 big teams is enough.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
It used to be 4, now it's 6, so it's getting better, But then you get the treacherous 6 and they want to go off and form a Super League. I'm sure they'd have put salary caps in that, because that was all about making money.
Of course,
So it's interesting, and I'm not personally up to speed with what's going on in the Champions League and stuff, but I don't think any of it's designed to spread the love called money more widely. And when you've got some clubs who can just pretend to sell bits of land for hundreds of millions to get themselves out of a hole, isn't that just the same as having a billionaire benefactor?
But they're allowed to do it.
Because they're allowed to do it, yeah. So that way, and again, we used to talk on this CBM a lot, if you don't have the buying power, be smarter. And
we've got to be having.
And PED shortens that down to being run properly. Being run properly.
Quite simple, isn't it? We've seen an interview with Graham Potter at the end of the season. In the pre-season last year, especially when we were linked with him, and he was saying we can't match clubs we can't match most clubs for wages and for spending power, so we have to be very smart with everything we do. We have to look for marginal gains and where we can do things better than what other clubs are doing. Analysis a bit better, dig a bit more to make sure we don't make mistakes. Well, every club should be doing.
But it's right though, if you oversimplify that though, what happens in every Premier League season, I think, pretty much every Premier League season, is that for the first 4, 5, 6 months of the season, clubs like Brighton can be performing really well. And then when you get into the hard yards near the end, when the games are coming fast, you're wary.
Or injuries you haven't got back up.
Suspensions kick in, squad depth comes to the fore, right? And so the treacherous 6 of what I like calling them, they have the greatest squad depth, particularly City, the rotation there is almost like if the first choice 11 is 100%, the second choice is 99. Where ours would drop 20% or something. And then you get the politics around player safety and fatigue, and let's have 5 substitutes and all those sorts of things. That's sporting integrity issues then around squad depth. I mean, John just talked about, hoarding players. It encourages you to hoard players when you can change half a team every game.
Yeah.
Really?
I know.
Half a team?
It's crazy, isn't it?
What is a small, in quotes, I don't mean, in turnover terms, but what's a small club with a good 12, 13, 14 players going to do against a Man City who've got 20?
Oh, I know. Well, we've said that because it was sold to everybody as protecting the players.
Of course.
Players are tired. Okay, well, make sub 4 and 5 2 academy players then.
Yes, I think things
got to come through or certainly one of your subs you bring on has got to have come through the academy. Now, Man City could bring on Phil Foden and go, well, he come through the academy. Fair enough. It could be a new one. It could be, you can name nine subs. One of them has got to be an academy player.
Yeah.
And if you're bringing 5 on, it's got to be him.
Yeah.
So Everton turn around and go, well, okay, Reece Welsh, he plays for the academy. He's our 5th sub if we need to put a 5th sub, or Lewis Dobbin, or whatever. Now, if Man City have got, players who are really good, the Lap, for instance, who's still in their academy but plays in the first team as well so be it. The kid's done well, he's got through. But as long as it's not Jack Grealish, who was at 100 million, if it's the Lap who come through their academy, not pay for him, and he's very good, fair play, well done. Brilliant development. Encourage everybody else to do it. If you're really talking about saving people's legs and looking after footballers, why wouldn't you bring a young player on?
All the Premier League clubs got academies.
Don't think Brentford have, but
what happens then?
They've got a reserve team.
Oh, okay, if they've got a reserve team, it has to come from that group then,
doesn't
it?
Yeah, it comes from
but you could do it. There's a whole host of ways you could adjust it, isn't it?
By doing that,
someone who hasn't played more than a certain amount of games.
Well, of course, because what you're doing that way is you're guaranteeing development of young players as well.
Yeah.
Now if you're not confident, you're crying if Klopp's cry-arsing because he can't bring 5 subs on. We need 5 subs, and one of them is a young lad who's come through the academy and he doesn't think he's good enough. Well, then that's on him.
Well, we do know that while Klopp was complaining about that, he wasn't making use of the subs he had.
Exactly, it's mad. And other managers, not just Jurgen Klopp, other managers will do the same. Conte, I imagine, cries about a lot of stuff. Probably him. Arteta moans about everything. Yeah. Might be him. Could be Frank for all we know.
You just want to be a fly on the wall when these debates are going on, don't you?
If we're doing it truly for everybody, then let's keep a little semblance of balance and say that the 4th and 5th sub or the 5th sub has to be a young player.
Yeah, we said today before, didn't we? Ask the club when. The other questions are why and how.
Yeah.
Okay, so the why is protect players. The how is, okay, how can we do this in a way that doesn't give competitive advantage to a limited number of teams,
but still protects the players.
Yeah.
That for me would be one of the only ways you could do it, because then, like you said,
now anyway,
it's it has. Right, we've got Ali on the line, John. So let's take another one from Ali. Are you there?
Yeah, hi there.
Hello, you all right, mate?
Hi, mate.
Yeah, not too bad. And yourselves?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so well, firstly, let's start off with I'm a Liverpool fan, so I know you guys are probably
okay.
You guys are probably not going to like it. So you know what angle I'm coming from.
Go on.
You sound like you're from the southeast, Ali.
I'm down south, yeah.
Yeah. Go on, mate.
Yeah. So I wanted really to talk today about Rafa and the stick that he got, and the comparison when you actually do the stat comparison between Rafa and Lampard.
Right. Yeah.
So, as I'm sure you guys are aware, let's kick off with Richarlison.
Yeah.
Would you agree he's probably your best player, right? He's your best attacking player.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, under Rafa, he played 10 games, right? Yeah. Richarlison played 10 games.
Yeah.
He won 4 games, drew 2, lost 6.
Yeah.
Right. Richarlison scored 4 goals. Assisted 2. Now look how many games he was available for Lampard. He was available for every game except the last game against Arsenal.
Yeah.
How many goals did he get under Lampard?
He got 6 in the last 9,
That's
didn't
right. And he got 3 assists. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you look at it, How many points would you say Richarlison is worth to the team in a season?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's
So
hard to extrapolate, isn't it? We were terrible last season, but we were better the year before. So
all right. So if I try and simplify it, then basically he played 18 games for Lampard. Can you imagine how many more points that Rafa would have got if he had Richarlison for all of the games?
Ali, let me just stop you there, right?
Right, go on.
Rafa Benitez won 1 game in 13, right? I don't care if it's. I love Adrian Heath. I love him, right? I've loved him from a kid, right? And I would give him all the time in the world, same as the likes of Duncan Ferguson. But if those two people won 1 Premier League game in 13, I don't believe they should be in a job. If you for 13 Premier League games, Everton won 1 game of football from September the 25th. Until no, hang on, because you spoke. They won 1 game of football until between September the 25th and Rafa Benitez being sacked, and that was a 94-minute winner against Arsenal.
But you haven't. You've basically evaded my question.
No, I haven't. If Richarlison, hang on. If Richarlison was
hold on a sec, right? I said to you, right. Richarlison, he played 18 games for Lampard. Right?
Yeah.
He only played 10 for Rafa, of which 2 of those he was on the bench. He came off on the bench, right?
Yeah.
So can you imagine if Rafa had him for 18 games, right? And the same for if he had him for an extra 8 games, and those extra 8 games where he didn't play, how many points do you think Richarlison would have got Rafa?
I don't know, but if hang on. If Frank Lampard,
hang on, I haven't finished. So there's only a difference of one point, right? Lamp's got one point more. Was it one?
He got 1 point more in less games, yeah.
1 point more, right?
In less games.
Do you think that in the 8 games, if Richarlison would have been available for 18 games, do you think that Richarlison would have got more than 1 point for Rafa?
No.
It's a straight yes or no.
No.
No, then Richarlison's. Well, then you basically say Richarlison's crap.
No. Listen, can I just make an observation, Ali? Because you're quoting stats, which is fair enough.
Yeah,
but that's very.
Stats don't lie, do they?
No, they're not, and they're very two-dimensional as well. Okay.
Right, okay.
Tell me where in your stats it tells you what the state of the morale was in that player group because of the approach and the style of the manager. Okay, so I don't think you can do a linear view that says, well, Frank had the squad, he had Richarlison a bit longer, and he only got 1 point more, albeit, as Baz says, in a game less or whatever, 2 games less, whatever. But the reality is, the squad was in disarray. Their confidence was on the floor.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I mean, let's talk about morale. So, I mean, look what happened with us last season, right? When we lost Van Dijk. Followed by a couple of weeks later when we lost Gomez. We lost the heart of our defence.
And then lost 6 home games on the spin.
And look exactly what happened to us. And then the morale was completely smashed to pieces. It wasn't smashed to pieces because we got a bad manager. It wasn't because of Klopp's tactics. It wasn't because of anything like that. It's a knock-on effect. If you guys ever play football, which I'm sure you have, you understand how morale works. When you lose your best player, now you're looking around and you're thinking, right, who's going to carry us through? Who are we looking on? Who are we going to rely on? The morale takes a hit for the whole team. Look at us. Again, I'm quoting with us. We had Salah, Mane, Firmino. We were 4 games. They couldn't. They'd have been there all night. They couldn't score, could they? They're not bad players, are they? It wasn't because of Klopp's tactics.
All right, Ali.
Where's this going?
Hang on, Ali. You've made some points, and that's fine. I've watched every Everton game, every minute of Rafa Benitez's reign.
Me too.
Everton absolute John's in the stadium for every single one. Everton's football under Rafa Benitez was horrific. Okay? Hang on, because I've let you speak. So a conversation, we let each other speak. Yerry Mina wasn't available for Frank Lampard for about 3 games. And Lampard, when he had them, we won games. So we can go who was available for who. And who wasn't available for who?
I'm glad you mentioned
hang on. Ali,
carry on.
This is not right. What I'm saying to you, first and foremost, Rafa. But I don't know why you feel like you need to defend Rafa Benitez. It's fine if you do. I don't understand it. Rafa Benitez is an awful football manager. He's awful. He destroyed
because
no, mate. Forget what he done for you was years ago. That's fine. I've got no problem. I've got no problem with you liking Rafa Benitez, none whatsoever.
Not you personally. Did the fans embrace Rafa? Your fans, you turned on him when he lost.
Hang on, Ali.
But he knew the city.
Day one, he got welcomed into the stadium, right? Not banners and all that. But he got a better reception than most people thought.
Yeah.
Right? The fans stayed with him. We got beat 5-2 at home by Watford. Say the name to yourself. Watford.
Yeah.
Right? Put 5 past Everton. We were 2-1 up with 13 minutes to go. Right?
Did you see the individual mistakes? Whoa.
Is this Icelandic superstar getting his revenge on us?
Individual mistakes from the manager.
I'll spin it to you facts.
Ali, I'm giving you the facts. I'm giving you the facts right now.
Watch that game back.
I've watched the game. Ali.
I analysed it with
Ali, if you're watching Everton games as closely as me, then you're not a Red.
No, I'm not.
Well, exactly.
No,
so I watched the game, and then before we do the shows, I watched the game again to make sure I've got my facts right.
Rafa just needs to go back to Al's toy barn.
We were 2-1 up in a game where we needed a third midfielder on. We needed a third midfielder on. And what did he do? He didn't have a clue. We got beat. Oh, BAE.
Just give it.
Come on, mate.
Ali, can I ask you a question?
Ali, come on.
Ali, do you think Benitez should have got the sack when he got it?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I think he should have gone before. Not because of his incompetence, because you guys know from the start it was a bad appointment.
Of course it was. Of course it was.
Manager, but it was a bad appointment. It's the wrong fit. It's the complete wrong fit. He never should have been taken on.
He's not a Premier League manager anymore. No. That's the problem.
And also his trackies were too big. Hummel couldn't supply them.
Stop it, Ben.
But I mean, you were mentioning Mina. Do you know Rafa won 4 and drew 2, and 8 games that Mina played for him?
Well, he will, because when Yerry Mina plays Everton, Everton don't really lose games of football. But Frank Lampard didn't have him. How many games did he play for Frank?
He played for 11.
11. He played 11. I don't think so, mate. He only played 13 league games all season and started 11 of them. So he didn't see. I can tell you how many he played. No, Ali, so you fell over your own stats. I'll tell you now. Right? I'm not even listening. I'll tell you now. He played 3 times for Frank Lampard. 3 times. And that's it. End of story. So your argument is gone. Hit a wall and burst into flames. Rafa Benitez deserved to get sacked when he got sacked. He's a poor football manager. You're absolutely right. He should never, ever in a million years been appointed Everton manager. Another mistake from Mashiri. But that's the way it is. It's football. He's gone. We're all buzzing. And he can go and do whatever he wants. He can go and sit there and watch Liverpool at Anfield and all that. But there's more ability in Jurgen Klopp's left bollock than there is in Rafa Benitez's whole body. And that's all I've got to say. So you seem like a really lovely fella. Thanks for phoning in, but I don't really want to talk about Rafa Benitez. I'm getting warm. My missus probably wondering where I am. My little fella wants me to go home and play football. And if you asked if we play football, I play football to quite a high level. So I understand morale. And if you don't like your manager, you stop doing the things that you should be doing. And I can absolutely guarantee you, from the Wolves game on, Everton stopped doing what they should have been doing for that man. So you're a top man. You seem like a lovely fella. Go and have a pint. Go and worry about whether Darwin Núñez will be as good as Sadio Mane, and he may well do because Klopp makes players better. You're a top man. Have a lovely day. Speak soon.
You don't know he's a top man.
Ned,
you've got your social clip.
Ned is incredible. Ned's ability.
Ned, what have you done there? What have you done there, Ned?
People through it. All right.
Anyway, listen.
That's what happens with phone-ins.
Imagine if we actually just let we didn't have a patrons phone in and it was just a free for all.
Ali had a point to make and he's made his point, but his
point
was
YouTube
flawed.
As well, isn't it, live?
Yeah, but it's the only patrons.
Only patrons can ring.
So it's flawed. His argument was flawed.
But he said he should have got sacked sooner.
Yeah.
In the end.
So there you go.
There's an interesting
Cameron's saying he can't hear me, so that'll be down to Ned as well. Cameron, Ned has apparently got a degree in sound.
First class honours.
I'm not being funny, mate. My dog that I don't even have could have got first class honours in that.
Ali couldn't hear you either.
Well, I hope he couldn't.
No, he could, but he wasn't listening.
There you go. Classic Ned. Right.
I don't need this anymore.
No, you don't need them, but I think we're done. That was tremendous.
I think we get a red on every week.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
You don't see Baz losing it very often, do you?
I wasn't losing it.
No, that wasn't. That's
Not
the heat.
full
That.
losing
He
it,
wasn't
but-
listening to me though. That's
No.
why.
Well, it was just a stato. That's right.
Basically, a conversation is
Two-way.
We speak, and I listen, then I speak, and you listen. But he wasn't doing it, so that's the way it is. But fair play to him. Fair play to him. Right. Anyway, listen. Take it easy, everyone. Make sure. Listen, if you're an Evertonian watching this stream and you aren't giving me a like for being able to have a game of tennis with Ali, then I don't know. maybe you're all Ali's. I don't know. But there you go. Big thanks to John Blaine for coming in, having a chat. The Reds, Tommy, the Reds do love us. We live rent free in their Reds. They're a brilliant. They're one of the best teams in the world. Why do you bother about what we're doing? There you go. Anyway, listen, Cam, none of us can wait for America. And Dave Jono, he wasn't getting under my skin. He was just like a child. No, it's like a child. It's like a child. Anyway, take it easy. We'll see you later. Bye.
Have a good one.